Thank you very much, Mike. Okay, follow that, Mendoza. So next up we have Mendoza. I'll read you the word. So Mendoza is a Northumbrian poet based in London, founder of the 9 Errors poetry series, editor of Freeclum poetry zine, and co-editor and event organizer at Stinky Bear Press. Investigating identity through poetic practice, Mendoza writes and performs under several personas, most notably Linus Slug Insect Librarian. Publications include the Dark Wood Language Art Anthology, Angel Exhaust, Cambridge Literary Review, Better Than Language, and Pearson 000. So, Mendoza came to Berlin with us last month and did a cracking reading over there, so even better to have her here again for the Surrey Poetry Festival. So, Mendoza.
Whatever works. Yeah.
I like this music style. Thank you, Mike, for that explosive introduction. I'm not going to be quite as explosive, but I'm going to read poems about Northumberland and insects. Or let me taste my horse across vast Northumberland like a thunderbolt of blood. Aaron McSweeney. Wolf Manah. This scowl is nothing more than winter burn, bloodlines scorched and spun, thread and weave this woven thread. I see you, akin to speculation, forward, I, here's the cusp. Firstborn, all-knowing, back and forth, icebound, heart of oak, leaden. You think me out for rent, wading through the human swirl, mute as shadow. I do, I done. Slain by the A66, pagan wanderloo fixed me in vinyl, and I, not hardly wry, with fingers hupstick frozen, frequently I instead pretend to like mittens, being fond and stupid and tired of life. Dear Scald, I'm certain you know of Leafcutter John and Johnny Laddie and Johnny in the Poke. We are border reavers, breeding quickly and prolific, like living and feeding on garbage and feces, like Musca domestica, with shiny new hands. Swine Forebeard has become king of Denmark. You think it's clever. I wish I could tell her I love her, and it not be too soon. She is smaller and slender, no sharp upward bent, and cheeks still rosy with choke down. Don't take your fancy with me hair, lip and hurdle. Swine. 2 hours to go, and still your resolve is not weakening. I kick myself, for I have missed Leafcutter John, and now Forkbeard, the swine, the spines and bristles, and not taken none of your nonsense. How obliterate out that gets in the way? Would best make refuge of the midden. Solmana, fellow bloat, dry herring in smoke, sea bloat. I am in Mudworth, overwintered, kale brackish gruel. Snow melts on trees, forms droplets, freezes. A barren landscape under blunt skies. This adult brood, huddled neath dark masses. Spindle fingers ache and burn. I am content with scraps of linen dipped in water, slide of hawk. The typograph erodes and letters, here comes, uninvited. I cannot write the day. Turns out leaf-cutter John is Johnny in the poke, now Johnny's out the bag. Dear Scout, I am certain you know the Queen of Blacklawn and elbowed red. The bitten brat are very scant. Here, deed, bodies stood for profit, heed, arms, legs, heart, gathered foul and smelling heap, ne tongue, ne mouth to conscience prick. Black nips hacked the eye, and here an eye on queer pins. Heart rot, leaf litter, dead branches in, rot, holes, bracket, fungi, sap runs, mouldy but slime, fungi under bark. Breath I, confusing I and him with images of male autonomy, bog, oak, crow, triumphant. How close and touchable his darling head, all sweet with curl. Cleats lay claim to clods of clay, and him with spores of mould. 'Tis the season for it, and I is measured in weighted breath. 9 for a kiss, bigger. O kissing bird, your maw comes in with adder's head, goes out with peacock's tail. I am a fantasist, engraver of sorrows, bitter and tender, this vulgar tissue is nothing. One says, March borrowed of April, 3 days and they were ill. 2 says, a very 9 bout me boily. Had a nan would gant the tune, I'd have saved myself for the berry broom. Bill knife is a cleaver. My circadian rhythm is bent with a shape, and I is for larks, you is for owls. Everything's off kilter, now John's in the bag. The hogs come hurtling home. Langton. Cuckoo spit on bog, spink, harbinger of spring. We sit, we sew, the ladies smock white cloth in meadow, partial shade. Blood has crimsoned the axe. They fall. I float upon the light while children dance and martyrs sink, death pale. I acquired my mundane dress with everyday occupations. Calisoma inquisitor hunts without mercy, at night climbs trees, seeks caterpillars in the canopy. A rare carabid. Of cells and mutation. But its belly is not white, only whitish. In certain light I am interrupted. In certain light I can make tension between copper-coloured devil's needle. Darker spots on wings, a glutinous maggot who became a fly, who becomes a fly, quite possibly common. I caught a handful. Lucky moth on cherry tree. He green with maple keys. But its belly is not white, only whitish. I understand this and long for the spring. Rather, I cut myself on the barbed wire we circle around the nursery. More binding confines when, starched smooth and rigid, the edges frayed. Of their own accord, carrot tops sprout leaves. But its belly is not white, only whitish. In certain light I am interrupted. In certain light, domestic bees are imperfect creatures. Tension between. The drone is a bee without a sting in vulgar opinion, worms fixed to their cells. Who becomes a fly? Who becomes a fly quite possibly common? I caught a handful. The honeybee has lost her wings. But its belly is not white, only whitish. I understand this and this little birdsong. Rather, I cut myself. On the barbed wire, we circle around the nursery. More binding confines the meaning of issue. When corn, fodder starts smooth and rigid, the edges frayed of their own accord. In the soil beneath the mountain ash. But its belly is not white, only whitish. In certain light I am interrupted, in certain light I am imperfect. Tension between I, Minumushi, hid in cherry blossom, here she is my dress. If I move in a simple and primitive manner, I can move less awkwardly than he can stand still. Pupating larvae, migrating south. I caught a handful. But its belly is not white, only whitish. Drop it, cover it up, pull it up, pull it up, pull it up. I understand this and walk in a clockwise direction, a 6-inch gash across the knee. Rather, I cut myself on the barbed wire. We circle around the nursery. When starched, smooth and rigid, the edges frayed in the soil beneath. But its belly is not white, only whitish. In certain light, I am interrupted. In certain light, a tree seen against another tree is simply a dark mass. If I move in a simple and primitive manner, if I yield to this impulse, the tension between copper-coloured devil's needle, the ice is bare in winter. The scream of a jay is a true winter sound. I'm going to finish with Die Fliege, aka the Frass Gazette. Frass is the mess that insects leave behind, so detritus that you know the insects have been there. So I was very interested in frass when I was working at the insect library. In fact, that was one of my jobs, to clean up the frass. This is kind of about insects and witchcraft and Northumberland and who knows what. Hung like a Christ. Thin young girl with slender arms, speaking of, I am fly, which brought crooked pins and first made her swallow and second made her. Then there came from her head a blistering bright fly, cant and hypocrisy, pale and crimson. Great Miller clapped. Powdery hands made cloud of ghost moth, Hepialus, pumili, dust on wings. She felt her pull, it tickled her pull, was red like raw beef, twirling crimson. Leotard, white tutu, Spanish dancer. My emperor tucked in folly folds and gill, I am red, rotten, hidden in her, not drawing blood, not breaking skin. Oh, little man, putting hand to head, saying, how do you, speaking low. Little man, hand to head, clothed in black, hat beneath chin. Her pole was red, like pollard sheep. Her perilous beat, Tom Tumbler. Eat clay. Other bugs clip her guts, not afraid of one shudder. See, the piper's maggot has slipped the jig, gratuitous hopping and in and out, and how they taught you. Wake up, as I will make thee comrade. I, Minumishi, hidden cherry blossom, here she is my dress. It was spring, mid-April, dogwood was out. Timothy Welford, a series, Monica and baby doll Bill behanded, and Jane Yorker's next that eyes is, after which the ever name was given, fits and fancies. Dame Myriad appeared in Milton Keynes and I, Thoreau. There is no reason to avoid it. The astral assault. 375, all knives removed, I butter my breads with fronds and spoons. 9 lice on the buttered bread. Red rot, shoving it. In lieu of laudanum, I am all young boys dressing like sailors. Elegant surrender. Musca maledicta. Hung like Christ. In March lament, the clouds, she serpent woman. I drop from air in losing dies. I, cuckoo wasps curled hard in balls. I, death, feigning, fractured line, permit self-amputation. Like wake, like watching the dead hinny fall through the meat. Nothing is without meaning. Blue-grey papillons, yellow bordered, smoky mottled, scarlet backed in plain sight. Is she here, my dress? I mimic you, inaudible pop. Fringed with bristles, body clothed in short, stiff hair. Yes, I am Harry as charged. Dear Betty, hello, it is 1403 AD and Hotspur is deaded at Shrewsbury. Mask partly extended, filthy rot shoving it. Body first impaled on spear, then later quartered, head on pole. Collar, 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 collar. Gather up rotting wood, discard limbs, his head on pole, his pole at head, his head, the pole is red like the woodland dress. Is she here? He, goblin, she, gilpin corner, full of malice unholy, cunning like the gruesome brownie, elfin like the main Relash. She is lean and hairy armed, Archibald, bell the cat, Archibald. Here I may ail soon, here soon, powerless of hand and foot, subtracted from this the possible and the certain. Subtract from this the possible and the certain, and what is left? She is my dress, is she, a girl of nimble finger duped with tender fancy. Lay of the last poetic I do not name, perverse intoxication. Me fain as me, myself as me, myself I saw him, and so I cannot doubt it. This poetic I do not name me, call myself. I do. Emphatic form, call me self, whether they observe. Mute. Mutilate. Deform and change the pronoun is I, she, I, he, he, itself, I am Jack. Sorry. They never learn, do they? The Newcastle prickers, 3, 4, 5, she had nothing of his in her body. 14, 17, women arrested for dressing as men. He ran a pin into her thigh and suddenly let her coat fall. They never learn, do they, George? Microbial mutants. Timorous Timon, colonizer of Crannock's surface drift, industrial spit, Norwood schist. I warned you that I'd strike blood that morning, dripping slits. that cantrip wrought, that cantrip lay in running waters, simple psalms, board of stones, hand drawn with pastels, reads like this. O Maggie, O magpie thief, your speech tongue is pressed to, darkling beetle, violet click, Jackie shining muggy, oh, red, rotten, hidden in her, gathered down in stinking close as flies as my familiar. Gathered down in stinking close as flies as my familiar. In moss on moor, in blackbird beak are pecked in crown, bound with none. I have his tash and I am fly.